today's study is on John 10. And I won't read John 10 today because most of it has been read, at least the part that we're going to study. Let me tell you before we start how touched I was by Linda's remarks. I thought her remarks were wonderful. They're the kind of remarks that I felt in my own heart for some time now. And for Linda to say that, it was really great. And I do reflect on that with some satisfaction in my heart and mind, knowing that even a year ago, that would not have been acceptable here in this church. And for any that would feel that is what she did was unacceptable, I would just tell you I can't accept that. I thought that was an incredible contribution to who we are as a people of God here. And I'm very thankful that that voice was heard before us all. I'm very thankful for that. Let me tell you, when I have studied John 10, in John 10, most people refer to that or think about that. Oh, that's the passage about the Good Shepherd. And when you all hear that, I would just like to ask, what sermons have you heard about John 10 and the Good Shepherd? And what application have you heard? Can you think just for a moment? Well, let me share for you what my memories are. My memories of studies on John 10 have basically been studies on elders and how to be a good elder. Right? Does that ring any bells to you all? That's basically what I have gotten out of that. And certainly, that's a fabulous application of John 10. However, I've got in mind that was not John's first intent when he wrote this. John's first intent when he wrote this, in my mind, is very much in line with what Jerry had to say. It was about Jesus depicting himself as the Good Shepherd. And you know, out of most of our backgrounds, most of our non-agrarian backgrounds, this metaphor of shepherd just doesn't mean to us maybe what it meant to them. When King David is referred to as a shepherd king, what do you think of that? What do you think of that description? David as shepherd king. Why should David have been referred to as a shepherd king? Leader. He was a leader. Okay. Certainly David was a great leader. Most people would point to David, most of the Jews at that time would have pointed to David as being the greatest king of Israel ever. In fact, when they talk about restoring their nation, they think about the nation as King David would have had. Interestingly, it's not Saul, it's not Solomon, it's David. Jimmy, what did you say? Practical knowledge, a very practical knowledge of how it was to lead. Why else might David have been referred to as a shepherd king?
He was called out of the field tending sheep by his Samuel or his father to come and be anointed.
Because in fact David was a shepherd. He was a shepherd. And can you tell me a little bit about what the life of a shepherd or the character of a shepherd might have been at that time? What would you think? Lonely, kind of out there on his own? What else might you have thought about a shepherd?
I would think they would be introspective because they have all that downtime out in nature.
Very introspective. They're out there kind of on their own and they think with themselves, right? Yeah. Okay. What else?
I was going to say kind of bored. same thing. Just sitting out there, and it's like, you know,
They're just kind of, hey, it's another day for the sheep, right? Okay, Carl. What else?
They were poor, they weren't wealthy people.
They were not wealthy people, they were relatively poor, okay? They might have been even considered in, if we considered in our socioeconomic terms, they might have been low class, lower class. Yeah. What else might you think about a shepherd?
Well, in David's case, I think he had a lot of alone time with God.
A lot of time with God?
And he
Yeah.
learned to, in protecting the sheep physically, he learned a lot of important skills.
So the skill of protecting the sheep
And knowing the sheep.
and knowing the sheep. Let me ask you this. In that day and time, did they exchange money? Huh? What do you think had value then?
sheep.
Livestock. So the shepherd was kind of the banker of the time, you think? You like that? He kind of took care of what had value. All right? That's what he did. And yet, he took care of what had value. How? How did he take care of that? What was between the sheep and disaster? Yeah. So you get this picture of a person that not particularly of high stake, with the high economic stake, that has a very important job, and his important job has to do with taking care of something else, okay? Something of value. And then this person achieves kingship. And what might a kingship look like from someone who is considered as a shepherd king as to someone who might be considered as a dictator king? Can't come up with a better word, I'm sure you could.
He was out there with the men enduring the battles.
He was out there with them, he was out there among them.
Probably very, very humble. I mean,
A humble king. Did you hear that? A humble king. Humble president. Humble king.
Because he was humble, he was close to God. I mean, that's why he became humble.
Because he was humble, he was close to God. How about because he was close to God, he was humble?
That's really what I mean.
Kind of works both ways, doesn't
And so therefore, I think that reflected in how he governed.
it? It reflected in how he governed. Did he govern for himself? And being this shepherd king, who are you being a king for? For yourself or for others? What is it that you have to gain as being shepherd king? Personally. Huh?
Bathsheba.
Thank you, Jimmy, for that contribution. That's very helpful to the class, okay?
Well, he felt like he was an instrument of God.
Yeah.
An instrument of God, yes. Yeah. So you've got that picture, okay? You have that picture. Jim Allen, get over it. He's okay, all right?
62 years old, still acting like he's 12.
That's why you left.
That,
He's
We're so blessed.
the shepherd life, okay?
He's
Yes.
also musical and poetic.
You know, Roger, I really hadn't thought about that. He was very musical and poetic. What do you think that has to do with being a shepherd king? Just interesting.
He was cultured. Singing to the flock.
He was cultured, he was singing to the flock, yes. You know, I think of someone poetic and musically talented. I think of them as having a peculiar, I would say, is it right brain or left brain?
Right is on.
Huh? A non-right brain approach to some things? A non-left brain. So he's got the right brain. He's got, it's not just heady, it's also hearty. I think about that, yeah. Okay, so, you know, this, this picture of what this looks like, I go back to the 23rd Psalm. Can somebody just read the 23rd Psalm or say the 23rd Psalm for me? I've got it. Let me just pull that up a minute because I want to read this 23rd Psalm, which is a beautiful, I mean, this is the most beautiful psalm of all.
Was it King James Version?
The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not be in want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, and my cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Is that not just the most beautiful thing that you can imagine? The Lord is my shepherd. Yes,
I'm gonna stick something in here.
please.
I mean, this is a nothing. I just think the Psalms sound better than the King James Version. They're more poetic.
Would you like to read the King James Version to somebody who
No,
have
I
a King
don't
James?
want it. But I just said it with you
That's
in the King
good.
James Version.
That's a contribution to what I'm trying to do here. Does anybody have a 23rd Psalm in the KJV? I would like to do that for Sil. Please do that.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
And just an aside on that, we read that psalm more at funerals than any other text of it. But isn't that a beautiful song for us to live every single day? Isn't that a great song for us to get up and just periodically say to ourselves when things just maybe aren't going our way, when we're beset with not just illness, but beset with just whatever hard times, be that economic, be that friendships, be that whatever. Isn't it nice? Isn't it comforting? Pull that out. Just imagine for a moment. The Lord is my shepherd. He has my back. I'm taken care of. That's a beautiful, beautiful thought. And yet, yes, Jimmy?
I have a question, talking about being a shepherd and how he was chosen. David was the youngest of his family. So, the firstborn male was the, pater familias, so to speak. And Samuel, they all came, Samuel was looking at them, no. Where is everybody else? Well, there's one out in the field, he's sort of ugly, and he was the one. So that, humbleness. Why was the youngest taking care of the sheep if that was such a financial thing to the family? Was that to show us that the least will be the greatest, maybe? Or maybe an example.
I don't know, Jimmy, that's a great thought. The single best teaching, best explanation of David and his life was provided me a long time ago by one of the professors at Lipscomb. He's dead now. His name is Harvey Floyd. Did anybody here know Harvey Floyd? Harvey Floyd would be one of my absolute favorite professors ever. I never took a class from him for credit. I didn't go to Lipscomb. But I audited a class when I was at the medical school, which he taught. And he was such a gentle man and just so kind, just so sweet. He called me, Brother Dr. Dills, if I could just have a moment, I'll provide you some answers to some questions. If you would just give me a medical pen. Just such a beautiful guy. And we were talking about David one time, and I recall very well what Dr. Floyd looked at me and he says, you know, Steve, it's a very interesting thing that the greatest king of Israel, King David, the Lord would have taken him and in his years of preparation. It wasn't in college. It wasn't in some medical institute. He had him out in a field with sheep, learning how to be a shepherd of sheep. It's a beautiful kind of thought. It's a beautiful kind of thought. I've thought about that many, many times. How God took David and in preparing him to be king. And this was king preparation. He had him out there taking care of sheep. And just as an application, I've many, many times thought about my own life, your lives, and I see things that you're going through, things that you're seemingly enduring. And I think God is preparing you for something. This is what he's taking you through to prepare you for something else where you can serve him even better. Linda, I think about your own illness and the difficulty of going through that. Okay? And you look back at these things and you say, even in that illness, and even in that low time in my life, was God preparing me for something else? I think we all have to look at that shepherd experience of David and realize we all have our shepherd experiences where he is but training us. He is but readying us for another time. He does this. He does this. Sometimes we don't recognize. We don't recognize it in some of our darkest times. Some of the hardest times we could possibly endure. He's just working with us. He's just trying to make us all ready. But we know how people sometimes respond. People responded poorly. Go to Ezekiel 34 with me for a bit. Okay? Again, Jerry alluded to this morning. This is where I was going to spend most of my time, was in Exodus 34. And Jerry started of it. I said, oh no, Jerry's got my lesson for you today. Ezekiel, I'm sorry, what did I say? Ezekiel 34, excuse me. Starts with the D also. The writer says, the word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, prophesy against the shepherds of Israel. Prophesy and say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Woe to the shepherds of Israel who only take care of themselves. Should not shepherds take care of the flock? You eat the curds, clothe yourselves in the wool, and slaughter the choice animals. But you do not take care of the flock. You have not strengthened the weak, or healed the sick, or bound up the injured. You have not brought back the strays, or searched for the lost. You have ruled them harshly and brutally. So the sheep were scattered because there was no shepherd. And when they were scattered, they became food for all the wild animals. My sheep wandered over all the mountains on every high hill. They were scattered over the whole earth, and no one searched or looked for them. Therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. As surely as I live, declares the sovereign Lord, because my flock lacks a shepherd, and so has been plundered. and has become food for all the wild animals. And because my shepherds did not search for my flock, but cared for themselves, rather than for my flock. Therefore, O shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. I am against the shepherds, and I will hold them accountable for my flock. I will remove them from tending the flock so that the shepherds can no longer feed themselves. I'll rescue my flock from their mouths, and it will no longer be food for them. For this is what the sovereign Lord says. I myself will search for my sheep and look after them. As a shepherd looks after his scattered flock when he is with them, so will I look after my sheep. I will rescue them from all the places where they were scattered on the day of clouds and darkness. I will bring them out from the nations and gather them from the countries. I will bring them into their own land. I will pasture them on the mountains of Israel. In the ravines and in the settlement of the land, I will tend them in good pasture, and the mountain heights of Israel will be their grazing land. There they will lie down in good grazing land, and there will be feed and a rich pasture on the mountains of Israel. I myself will tend my sheep and have them lie down, declares the sovereign Lord. I will search for the lost and bring back the slaves. I will bind up the injured and strengthen the weak, but the sleek and the strong I will destroy. I will shepherd the flock with justice. What do you think? God himself declares, you who want to be shepherds, you shepherd wannabes, but you who instead are there for your own good and not for the good of your sheep, I'm going to be the shepherd. I'm going to be the shepherd. And then we have this language that Jesus uses here in John 10. Again, Jerry mentioned this language of I am. I am. Was that familiar to most of you? The language? The so-called 7 I ams from John. The very phrase I am, when they heard that, that is nothing short of God language. That is a very direct statement by Jesus that says nothing short than I am God. As you see me, I am God. I am. And what specifically I am? He names two things in this chapter. He says, I am the gate, and the other, I am the good shepherd. Now, this phrase, for a moment, is just talk about I am the gate. And Jerry showed the picture up there where it showed the U-shaped thing of stones with the open, okay? Jesus is the gate. Can you tell me the difference between a gate and a gatekeeper?
Say a gatekeeper can abandon the gate. The gate is always there.
What's a gatekeeper do, Walt?
They can make sure the gate's secure.
Yeah, and as you go in, if there's an admission, what might the gatekeeper do?
Certainly decide who goes in and who doesn't.
Ticket, like you ticket. That's a gatekeeper. But Jesus doesn't really think of himself as the gatekeeper. He is in fact the gate. What insight might you have into that? He is the gate.
He's the way.
He is the way. He is the way. What is within that pen that's not outside of that pen? Security. What kind of security? Safety. Safety from what?
Your attackers from outside.
Safety from your attackers outside. And if you're a sheep, what would those attackers be? wolves, bears, whatever. But if you're sitting in your chair right now today, what is your attacker? What attacks you right now? Satan? Be a little more. Evil influences? What attacks you right now? What are you being attacked by right this minute? What is it that's attacking you? Joe, what's attacked you last week? How about your heart? How about your heart, you big dummy? You had a heart attack last week, do you remember? I know you did. They said that. Sometimes they mess up, don't they?
I got a 16-year-old heart.
Yeah, you got a 60-year-old heart. You know, that ain't true, Joe, all right?
You made that up?
I made that up. I want you to feel better. What threatens you right now, okay? What threatens all of us as we grow older is certainly our health, right? That's something that can threaten us. And how does our health threaten us? Why is our health such a threat to us?
The bad health induced business.
I lived so long ago, nothing.
Why does our health affect us? Why does our health threaten us?
You don't want to die?
We don't want to die. We want to live, don't we? So how is it that the Spirit of God, the Shepherd God, how does He protect you from that fear? Better place? How about not just a better place, but let's not define it. Let's just say, in life as we know it, in life to come as we know it, He's with us. He's going to take care of us, right? We have that assurance. Don't we? What's pushing you right now? What's going on in your life? You got it made? No issues whatsoever? Life is great. No stresses. No, hadn't lost any money on the stock market. And wrecked a bicycle lately. Kind of caught you cold. I know there's something there, Roger, okay? Gerald, what's going on in your life right now? What's got you?
Got a wedding coming up.
Oh, my.
Coming up late, sorry.
Gerald's got a wedding coming up. Boy, don't have to go through those anymore. Not my children anyway. Pretty big deal. You want that done right, don't you? What's going on, Jan? What's going on in your life?
Getting older, Steve.
You are, Jan. That's a good thing.
Complacency
Complacency is
is a struggle sometimes.
very, very easy. Yeah. Jimmy, how about a serious word from you? Is that, well,
Yes,
I'm sorry.
I can give you a
Don't
serious.
need to ask the impossible.
If you want to really delve down into it, the animus in this country is heartbreaking.
It is. It is.
You know, most of us have phones and social media, and it's very easy after you've had supper to sit down and go into that rabbit hole. And the way the algorithms work, they feed you the worst devil's manna that you can eat. So, one night, and then I went to bed and it was like running through my head. It made me sleep not restfully.
So just Jimmy, does it help you to think that you can walk through that gate and that you can be freed from some of that?
It does, but I think some of the people that I'm walking through that gate with have blinders on, and it's easier to be led and be ignorant than to do your homework and find out what the truth is. But, what is the truth anymore? When you see truth, the said this before, is those apps that we all in this room, and a lot of us, you know, look at and follow, and it's just, it's, you know, the only person I think that's winning at this is the devil. The devil is winning out. But we have to trust that, you know, our faith will protect us.
Okay, I want to get back to this idea of gatekeeper and gate for a moment, okay? So we as Christians, okay, we're out here, it's a bad place, okay? Let's walk through this gate, and now I'm inside these arms of protection. See that concept? Let me paint you another concept, because I'm going to argue that that's not the way this is. That's the way of a gatekeeper. The way of the gatekeeper is, I've got a ticket, okay, which I give the gatekeeper, and I'm out here in this terrible area. I'm going to get my ticket, and I'm going to walk over here, and all of a sudden, I am in a safe place. Hear that? Let me give you another picture. Jesus is not the gatekeeper. He is, in fact, the gate. He is, in fact, the way. It's not a movement from an unsafe place to a safe place, but rather it's the movement. It's a movement from a mindset that recognizes, here I am, and I am very uncomfortable, and there's very bad things going on. And yet, through my belief in Jesus as the way, in a way where I can see how life is in Jesus, the comfort that I have, the power that I have, because I know that I am in Jesus, that no matter where I am, whether I'm out here or inside some enclosure, I'm okay. I'm taken care of. It's this mindset that I think we have to recognize, that Jesus, he's not just a gatekeeper. He is the gate. It's belief in Jesus. It's an understanding of who Jesus is. It's putting our heart and soul in who Jesus is that remedies all these worries that we have, no matter where we are. Whether it's in a hospital bed, or whether we're struggling with loans, or whether we're struggling with people and people that work for us, trying to get for a wedding, trying to fix our broken bicycle, make that up, whatever, okay? It's a matter of being in Jesus and in His way. And that way, Jesus is the gate, okay? He's the gate. He is the gate. It's through Him. It's through Him that we have peace. And it's not being here or being there. It's being in Him. Jesus is the gate. I am the gate. And the other, any comments on that? Y'all hear what I see as a difference there? Yeah?
I was just going to say, because there's this idea that we move from the unknown and the unsettling into the known and the settling. But in my experience with Jesus, I'm not moving to the known, because there is this unknown of what He's going to send me into, and what He's going to have me do, and who I'm going to encounter, and what I'm going to say. But that unknown is okay because of Jesus. So even though I like to, have a plan, even though there's not always a plan, I'm okay with that because I know that Jesus is with me in that.
In Jesus, when we're in Jesus, the world is still not in peace.
That's right.
The place that we live is not in peace. The country that we live in, with all its problems, will not be in peace. And yet, each of us can truly be in peace. Our children, one thing that I love to say, particularly as Margaret, I've gotten over, it's, once you have children, You'll always be parents. You'll always be parents. You will never lose. You'll never lose that feeling, that responsibility that was given to you when you became parents. You'll always have that. You'll always have them. And you know something? They're humans too, and they're going to have their issues. Be that health, be that their marriages, be that whatever. They're going to always have that. That's always going on. It's always going on. And I'll tell you something. If you let yourself slide for just a moment from a recognition that you're in Jesus, you're in that gate, you're in that way, if you let that slide for just a moment, okay, all of a sudden all those doubts, all those worries, all those concerns, the anxiety, the depression of life will get you down. It'll get you down. But you got to stay with it. You got to stay with it. You got to stay in Him. You got to know He's your shepherd. He's there. He's there. He's there with you. Jesus says, I am the good shepherd. I am the good shepherd. I am God of Ezekiel 34. I am here. And the words that Rick said this morning, I am here. I am here to give myself of my own accord. It is my will that I will give myself. And through God, I can be raised up. I am the good shepherd. What a total depiction of God's love for us and the kind of God that we have. Not a God who would rule over us for His own sake, for His own good, but rather a God that loves us enough that He would die for any of us. Let me close this class by saying, I mentioned earlier, I thought John wrote this chapter for the very reasons that we've talked about. But having said that, isn't it upon all of us, if we truly want to be like Jesus, is it not upon each of us the need that we would be good shepherds to those that are around us? Go to the very last chapter of John with me for a moment. Jesus has been crucified. Jesus has been resurrected. And Jesus has come back with His disciples. And Peter, can you imagine just for a moment what Peter felt in his own heart at this time? He had only denied Jesus a few days before. I don't know this man. I don't know him. I don't know him. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, you truly love me more than these? Yes, Lord, he said, you know that I love you. And Jesus said, feed my lambs. Again, Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you truly love me? He answered, yes, you know that I love you. Jesus said, take care of my sheep. How many times did Peter deny Jesus? The third time he said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, do you love me? He said, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my sheep. I tell you the truth, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted, but when you are old, you will stretch out your hands and someone else will dress you and lead you wherever Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. And he said to him, follow me. That's a message for each and every one of us. Jesus says, feed my sheep. That's what we need to do. Feed my sheep. Jesus is the great I am. All right, you all have a great week. Hope y'all enjoyed hearing this. I hope you'll reflect on it your own self. Read the 23rd Psalm more often. Get started today with it. We're glad to have Joe and Beverly with us. It's a real pleasure. Yes, you know something? We have totally overlooked Beverly, haven't we? Isn't it amazing how much attention you get for a non-heart attack? I know, you didn't. That's why I called it a non-heart attack, Joe. On the other hand, Beverly had something real, and look at her, okay? She had something real, and look at her. She's doing so well. Aren't we glad to have her?